and you completely recomposition your physique in the course of 24 weeks with, I feel, the best beginner performance enhancing drugs that are out there. Welcome to Vigorous PEDs. I'm Coach Steve. Let's discuss the top 5 best performance enhancing drugs for beginners. Now with beginners, I mean people who already decided to become enhanced. So if you're still drug free and you're thinking about becoming enhanced, this top 5 might be suitable for you, but you should watch this video first so you have an idea of the things you need to keep into consideration when you take your bodybuilding or fitness aspirations to the next level, because you're going to complicate everything infinitely more. So be ready for it. So if you're already enhanced and you think about, taking or sprinkling a little bit on top of your hormone replacement or generous hormone replacement for bodybuilders, this list is for you. Now, the first selection would be, in my case and most of my clients, testosterone. Now, testosterone is not for everybody, but you'll still have to get your hands dirty and figure out if testosterone is for you before you decide to jump into a DECA-only cycle, for example. Again, you can go a little bit by hair loss if that's in your family or you're genetically predispositioned for hair loss. You have to keep the DECA-only cycle into consideration, but you'll have to supplement with exogenous estradiol, because DECA only doesn't give you enough estradiol by itself, and the neurosteroids, even when you take a significant amount of DHEA and pregnenolone, or you stimulate the gonads with ACG or HMG, you might still not see sufficient estradiol concentration, so you might have to go the transgender route and start supplementing your estradiol exogenously. So keep that in consideration, because all the DECA-only cycle blood works that I've seen, including myself, subclinical estradiol, unless you go on HMG, ACG, DHEA, pregnenolone, or injectable estradiol, or go with birth control without a progestin inside. So in most cases, since testosterone is bioidentical and your genetic makeup was built on testosterone as a man, that would be the first beginner performance enhancing drug that you should consider. Now, you got a little bit of experience with your testosterone, you figured out your estradiol concentrations, maybe with aromasin. I wouldn't consider aromasin a performance enhancing drug, so we'll label that as an ancillary medication, which might be required when you go on exogenous testosterone and you can't control the conversion of testosterone by dropping body fat, increasing your injection frequency, or using supplements like diindolylmethane and calcium D-glucarate to prevent metabolism into estradiol or clear up estradiol metabolism by speeding up the glucocoronation process. So let's say you got your testosterone under control. I feel that in most cases, growth hormone is next. This is exactly what I do with my clients. You got your testosterone under control. Let's add some growth hormone. Anybody over the age of 25, growth hormone, growth hormone, growth hormone, growth hormone. You might hear people say that growth hormone is overrated. Those guys are lying. Those guys are lying, and they don't want you to get as big as they are. I feel the growth hormone is the best addition you could do after testosterone, considering it's bioidentical. And yes, it's very expensive, especially if you're not in the fitness industry for a while, and you might have to take pay the marked up price as you proceed through the fitness industry. Usually growth hormone gets a little bit cheaper, because larger people usually get discounts. And I feel that growth hormone is a very suitable investment, and you don't need to take much. Don't listen to these guys that they say you need 6 months in growth hormone before you see effects. No, those effects will come within a week, and then they start to get progressively better. You will be fuller, rounder. Yes, you will hold some water retention. So you start low. 1 unit, 1.5 units, 2 units. In most cases, that's all you need. You just need to stay on growth hormone for longer periods of time for the compound to really shine. But you start to notice effects within 2 weeks. I guarantee it. If you don't notice effects within 2 weeks, you probably need to switch brands. Now, the second addition that I would consider for my athletes, insulin. Again, it's bioidentical. You're a bodybuilder. You want to make as much progress as you can. You're already on test, which is bioidentical. You're already on growth hormone, which is bioidentical. For my clients, the next logical step is insulin, considering they're bodybuilders. Now, if you're not a bodybuilder and you don't have a coach that is knowledgeable in insulin and doesn't understand it, or doesn't tell you, buy a glucose monitor, buy a heart rate monitor, buy everything you need before you consider insulin use, then insulin wouldn't be suitable for you, because you definitely need guidance, especially if you're a beginner. But most of my clients, once they get a little bit of experience with testosterone and growth hormone, and they want to bring their bodybuilding to the next level, insulin would be my third option. And then IGF-1, and then maybe an oral, or maybe Primobolan. So let's just keep it for the beginners that are helping themselves along this bodybuilding journey. The third option would perhaps be an oral, just to get a little bit of experience besides testosterone, and adding another anabolic agent on top that doesn't aromatize. So I feel that the most common compound that is suitable is Turinabol. It's been around for a very long time, and even though it might not be as, or doesn't hold this, internet fame, just like Dianabol, Anavar, or Anadrol, Turinabol is a very good, suitable beginner compound that doesn't require you to change your aromatase inhibitor, or doesn't change your injection frequency or your supplementation regarding estradiol metabolization. Turinabol doesn't convert it to estradiol, and it doesn't really impact the way testosterone converts into estradiol either. So you don't have to, immediately go for blood work 4 weeks later to see where your lipids and your estradiol and your sexual binding globulin is at, because Turinabol is generally mild. And the only side effect you will notice is increased liver enzymes. Again, considering you keep the dose moderate. When I say moderate, 30 milligrams per day. So let's say you're on hormone replacement, 250 milligrams of testosterone at maximum. Maybe it's 200 milligrams, 150, whatever. You sprinkle in a little bit of Turinabol on top 1 hour before workout. It will give you a performance-enhancing boost, just like the name implies with performance-enhancing drugs. And that will be your entry-level 17-alpha-alkylated oral steroid. Now, considering that Turinabol is 17-alpha-alkylated, but it's not as androgenic or anabolic as some of the other oral steroids, you'll see that your liver enzymes only marginally increase. And that's a good way to determine how your liver reacts to oral steroids in the beginning, before you start to get your hands dirty with, more potent orals, like an Anadrol or Superdrol, or, perhaps halotestin check drops, etc. Turinabol is a suitable entry-level oral. That would be my first choice. I would not consider Proviron as a first choice, because even superphysiologic dosages of testosterone will lower your sexual binding globulin over time, and you don't need Proviron to lower it further, unless you really come from a drug-free status and your sexual binding globulin is a little bit on the high side, your free testosterone is a little bit on the low side. 4 weeks of Proviron is more than sufficient to get your sexual binding globulin to the middle of the range and your free testosterone over the reference range, considering you're taking over the reference range exogenous testosterone. So again, Proviron 4 weeks. Turinabol is a little bit more sustainable and should be able, at a low dose, you should be able to run that for, several weeks at a time, considering you do your blood work before, during, and after. Now, the fourth option that I would consider would be a fat burner. Again, that's not really suitable during the off season, because during the off season, you're not trying to burn fat. You're just trying to manage calories to prevent the least amount of body fat gain, even though in most cases you will still, gain a little bit of body fat in order to make progress. So when you're deciding to cut, GW1516, also known as Cardarine, would be a suitable entry-level fat burner. Now, when you start to do the research and you see that Cardarine has been associated with colon cancer, please read that study very carefully. Basically, the takeaway of that study is that the mice were genetically altered to be susceptible to the formation of colon cancer, and GW1516 was able to speed up cancer formation. But it wasn't shown to cause cancer, and there were no consecutive studies that show that GW1516 is actually able to induce cancer. So keep that in mind. Yes, GW1516, just like a high carbohydrate diet or growth hormone, might be able to accelerate cancer formation. So even though it's an entry-level performance-enhancing drugs, it might be advised, just like with growth hormone, before you add in the growth hormone or the GW1516, for security purposes, for safety purposes, for health purposes, you check your cancer markers first, which of course makes this whole beginner stack a little bit cumbersome. But hey, we're doing this for the long route, right? Not for immediate results only. Keeping that into consideration, I feel that GW1516 is probably the safest fat burner you can take, considering all the other fat burners are stimulant-based, clenbuterol, yohimbine, ephedrine, even high dosages of caffeine. All of those are stimulant-based, and I feel that a beginner should not jump into stimulant-based fat burners. Ideally, would go with GW1516, maybe in a combination with SR9009, to get a little bit more performance-enhancing benefits, making cardio a lot more sustainable, a lot more enjoyable, because you're simply breezing and powering through it. So you make the cardio sessions easier and more enjoyable, and the net fat loss that you will gain during this cardio session will be substantially increased, especially if you time that with a growth hormone injection, which causes lipolysis. So you take your 1 unit, 2 unit growth hormone budget as an entry-level beginner cycle, you take that before your cardio session as well. 2 units of growth hormone, 20 units of GW1516, and maybe 10-20 milligrams of SR9009. And the last beginner steroid that I could recommend is Primobolan, which is the best anabolic androgenic steroid ever made. If you can find legit Primobolan. I don't think it's an issue nowadays, even though there's some counterfeits out there. And yes, sometimes the underground labs underdose their Primobolan, or they switch that with boldenone and masterone for the beginners. They might not be able to notice the difference, especially if they've never used another injectable steroid besides testosterone. So please do your due diligence and maybe use one of those testing kits. Send it in for HPLC testing, or make sure you do your damn best to get pharmaceutical grade. If you get legit Primo, it's hands down the best compound you could add as an injectable besides exogenous testosterone. Now again, if you're susceptible to hair loss or acne, it is still a DHT derivative, so it might not be so suitable for everybody. I don't know your genetic makeup. You can decide that by yourself, given your family history. Most of my clients are on Primo as their second injectable. All of the guys that are on Primo are absolutely enjoying it. Start by watching this video series. That will be my option going forward for beginners. So a beginner steroid cycle would look like this. Let's say generous hormone replacement, 250 milligrams testosterone per week, matching that with Primobolan, 250 milligrams Primobolan per week, so you don't need an aromatase inhibitor, because yes, Primobolan acts as an aromatase inhibitor, so you no longer need aromasin, dianylmethane, calcium deglucarate, or daily administrations. You would be able to split your administrations apart and let Primobolan take care of your serum estradiol concentrations. Maybe a little bit of Turinabol, 30 milligrams per day, so that's what, 210 milligrams per week, resulting in a cycle of 710 milligrams in total. It's a hefty beginner cycle, I'll say that, but by the time you're ready and slowly phasing in these compounds, some muscle building should have occurred in the meantime. So you start with 250 test, then maybe you add in the Turinabol on top, and maybe you replace the Turinabol for Primobolan, increasing the overall anabolic benefit. Maybe, 8 weeks into your Turinabol cycle, so 4 weeks on test only, 8 weeks on Turinabol, that's 12 weeks, and then you add in the Primobolan for another 16 weeks, extending that cycle to half a year, 24 weeks. Considering the blood work changes that are marginal, I feel that's pretty safe. Again, if you're doing your blood work before, during, and after, and, post-cycle or post-discontinuation of Primobolan. In the beginning, you can gain as much muscle mass as you can with test GH, Turinabol, and then maybe you add in the Primobolan at the end. in combination with GW1516 and SR9009, and you completely recomposition your physique in the course of 24 weeks with, I feel, the best beginner performance enhancing drugs that are out there and that are still reasonably easy to source, considering you're a beginner and you're probably not that knowledgeable on where to acquire these kinds of performance enhancing drugs, which is a huge learning curve in itself. And no, please don't ask me in the comment section. YouTube is not a source board, guys. There's bodybuilding forums for that. You can find your sources there. And please don't do source checks with me. I don't know. People live all over the world. I just buy everything I need at the pharmacy. And I really hope that helps. Thank you guys so much for watching. Vigorous crew, you guys are awesome. Front double bicep for you guys. If you're looking for the most comprehensive guides to bodybuilding pharmacology, you can find those ebooks on my website, VigorousSteve.com/shop. You can find the rates to my services there as well in the services section, whether you're interested in a 1-hour consultation, personalized advice by email, or bodybuilding coaching. I only accept bodybuilders nowadays, guys, and bodybuilders that are willing to do blood work. No blood work, no service. If you can do blood work or you're interested in one of the other services, contact me through the contact form. Please follow me on Instagram at VigorousSteve. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next video.